Hey,
Oh,
look, there's Tom DeLonge, but
am I
he's
side?
sideways.
Am I sideways? All right. I was trying to charge my phone at the same time, and I don't have all the capabilities in the world here.
Hi, Tom DeLonge.
How's it going? I'm
Good.
sorry about yesterday. Shit, that was three little boys doing homeschool, and I'm gonna unplug this shit. Three boys doing homeschool, lunch and breakfasts, all at different times, and chaos with teachers and shit. And I look, and I don't have my phone, and I had a full meltdown, and then I was dealing with that, and then I was like, okay, well, I fucked that all up, so I apologize.
It's all
So
right. It's all right. As many people watching right now around the world, and especially here in Tulsa, would remember, you just played a show for us not that long ago in Tulsa. You played our Christmas concert at Kane's Ballroom. We had a great time. It was nice to see you again.
yeah, thanks for
Um,
having us.
Yeah, of course, anytime. Okay, so we have been soliciting questions, so we're going to kind of run through these pretty quick, and then you and I can chit chat throughout. But
Sure.
somebody asked a really funny question earlier. What did you want to be when you grew up, when you were a kid?
For the longest time, I was going to be a firefighter. I was in a fire fighting academy in high school. So I used to go to fires and go training and uniforms and push-ups and CPR and all that kind of stuff. And then they got pretty militant about it, where because it's super competitive. It's almost like joining the military. And I remember at some point I was like, this isn't very good. They yelled at me at work or something, called me up like, where are you? I was like, yeah, this doesn't really work for me. I don't do it so well with authority, and
Yeah.
and so I changed that. But that's what I was aiming for a few years. Yeah.
Um, Last year or something, the fire department here asked me to come out and I got to sit in the thing and shoot the hose and all that stuff. And I remember thinking how difficult it must be to do that day in and day out where you're putting on all the garb. That stuff weighs like 200 pounds.
Oh, it's a lot. It's so gnarly. Like, let me fix my phone here. What's crazy is like when you're in a room with a fire. Oh my God. Like what's crazy, I learned too, number one, it's like the difference between on the ground to the ceiling of that same room is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of degrees. And when you let off 1 gallon of water, it expands to 17 gallons of steam. So every time you
Huh.
just spray the fire, you get this explosion of scalding hot steam. And so there's like all these little things that I've kept. Knowledge. You got to put
You're
a fire out with your body, not with water. You got
you're
to
literally
smother it.
you're the smartest rock star we've talked to out of
No.
all of these interviews so far.
Oh my God.
Nobody else knows about steam. Nobody else
That's a
knows about volume.
it's
That's
very
all
low.
you.
That's a low bar. If I'm the smart, that's like, you know,
I like
whatever.
that you saw all the other people that we've talked to, and you're like, Gavin Rossdale, give me a break. I know more than that guy.
It's funny,
All right,
Gavin. It's about I have a Gavin story, which is kind of funny. Like,
let's
there's
hear
a
it.
where To the Stars, my company is. There's a big a downhill thing where they do snowboarding and skiing lessons,
Yeah.
where it's kind of like a conveyor belt, and then they teach you how to do it. And I pull up one day, and there's this big tour bus, and I was like, why is there a tour bus in our parking lot? And in the back, there's Gavin with like a half shirt and like these designer sweatpants going down on a snowboard sideways, and someone's holding his hands, But all my friends are super dirty, hardcore surfers and skateboarders, and so they're leaning out of the windows of the building where the parking lot is, where my company is, because there's a really hardcore surf skate shop right there, and they're leaning out of the windows. I mean, they could not get enough of it, yelling stuff at him. They thought it was the funniest thing they ever saw, this guy from Beverly Hills with a half shirt, like doing it. That was super nice, though. I talked to him that day, so I'm not trying to jab at him, but I'm just trying to tell you there's a culture down here that's pretty judgmental, I guess, when you just jump in and want to play the
So
part.
I'm actually interviewing him tomorrow, and you've just made the whole interview for me.
Well,
Now
tell
I
him, you can
now
tell him
I know
one
what we're
thing, though.
talking about.
Yeah, just tell him, don't be mean, please, because
I'm not gonna be
that
mean.
wasn't the point of what I said. But he's a big fan of that punk rock band called Fugazi, and
He is.
when I heard he was into that, I was like very, very happy and excited that he was so vocal about that. Not that many people that are like big artists talk about a band like that, so that made me really actually like him a lot.
Well, and it's weird too. I asked him one time, the first time I think ever interviewed Gavin Rossdale from Bush. I asked him what his favorite album of all time was, and he goes, "Oh, that's easy. It's Rain Dogs by Tom Waits." And I was like, "Serious?
Man,
All right."
punker. He's got an old punk rock.
You don't want to be the guy that's like, "Come on," but then
Yeah.
you go, "That's pretty awesome." Yeah.
Well, it's awesome because you don't necessarily hear it in his music, but that's a lot. You know, it's funny. Like 21 Pilots did this interview lately because everyone's sending it to me just recently, and they mentioned Angels and Airwaves, my other band with Travis from Blink called Boxcar Racer, and
Right.
they mentioned all this stuff, and I just go, wow, I would never have thought that they were into that kind of music or they followed the punk scene or whatever. You just never know. You know, I just watched the Beastie Boys documentary, which is incredible. And it's like a punk rock lesson for the first 20 minutes of the documentary. You know, we met at a Misfits show and went to a Bad Brains show. And, you know, these are bands that me and my friends grew up on, like worshiping, you know, and I knew that they were punk rock kids. I knew they were skateboarders, but I didn't know to the depth of that, of how deep they were into it. And it just made me love them so much more because that's my tribe. You know, I come from that scene, and it's super important to me, you know.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that because being in California, punk rock in California is different than punk rock anywhere else outside of maybe DC or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But punk rock in California, there are bands there that are vastly popular that couldn't get arrested in other parts of the country.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like if Pennywise are going to play in LA, they're going to play to one place, and if they go to Des Moines, they're not playing with the same crew. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah.
So what punk rock bands were you listening to growing up?
Oh my God.
Let's say top three.
The Descendants, Fugazi, and the third probably, you know, Stiff Little Fingers.
Did you know that Stefan from Descendants lives here?
Really? In Tulsa?
Yep.
Wow.
I see him literally all the time. The other day, I was just telling somebody that the last restaurant I got to go to before the quarantine, I walked in and Stefan was there with his kids and I was there with my daughter. And it was like, "You remember Stefan?" And she's like, all right, great. I just want to sit down. Hi, Stefan.
Nah. Did he have like a full,
"Hey,
beautiful head of hair flowing in the wind?
He and I look a lot alike.
You guys both? No. You have way more hair than he does. But he's so cool. He's so nice. Like Descendants is like, that's my number one. That's the one band that is why Blink started. You know, like it's like the one, like we all loved a handful of punk bands, but the Descendants was everything to Mark, Travis, and I.
Somebody just asked, where's the best burritos in San Diego?
Oh my God, that's like asking where's the best pizza in New York. You know, it's there's a lot of places that do it really, really well. You kind of got to figure it out. What I have figured out though is that a lot of places you judge it on just a couple things, like how good is their carne asada and how good is their salsa. You know, it's like how do they marinate the steak and what kind of salsa do they use? Because everything else is pretty like basic. Tortilla, you know, cheese.
Speaking of food, somebody asked earlier, what are you going to eat for dinner tonight?
Last night I grilled teriyaki chicken.
Nice.
And I'm starting to eat all this cauliflower rice. It's like super healthy. Your body thinks it's rice because it's white and it's small, but when you eat it, it's different. But it's not so bad because you put oil all over it. But tonight we might be making burgers or some kind. I'll eat veggie burgers, but. By the way, I'm a big fan of Beyond Meat. Do you ever eat those Beyond Meat burgers?
No, I eat meat burgers.
Well, you are in Tulsa. I mean, you'd probably get like shot by a Trump supporter if you're eating a veggie burger.
You understand.
Yes. Yeah. You're not allowed to. It's like
no.
The laws on eating vegetarian out there are as strict as COVID-19 laws. Same thing.
We stop vegetarians at the border and say, "Turn around, sissy boy."
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. But this company, Beyond Meat, created a burger to take out burgers in fast food restaurants. Like, how can we create something that's competitive and help out the environment? Dude, it's fucking good, man. It's like they sizzle, and there's grease, and it's like a crunch to it. It's like it's unlike any other thing you've ever had, and it's really good, dude. You put that shit on a brioche bun with some goat cheese or something, you're like gourmet. It's so good. So just try it.
Here's somebody that says, who is the most famous person in your cell phone?
That's a good question. Chris Hemsworth, maybe?
Nice.
Hung out with him on just on an airplane. Met him for just a couple seconds, and then ran into him in the hotel a couple times. Exchanged stuff. I don't know him. You know, he never talked or anything, but he almost came to the Blink show that night, and that's why. But if it's not him, it would probably be like, you know, I don't know. There's a couple people like that, but it's also mixed in with all these very high-ranking people from CIA and the Department of Defense. So I kind of have, like, in my mind, the most famous is the guy that runs the UFO program for the U.S. government. And I talk to that guy about once a week, and I feel like I'm talking to, like, Tom Cruise. You know, I'm like, oh.
Okay, so you just brought that up, and obviously I'd be remiss if we were doing an interview with Tom from Angels and Airwaves and Blink if we didn't start talking a little bit about UFOs. So sure. I remember when the Navy released the thing and they said, okay, fine, you know, it had already been out there for a while and you had already seen the pictures for a while. And in the CNN article, it name checks you, which I thought was so rad that there's like this punk rock guy that's being talked about on CNN. It's like the same guy that just wants to talk about burritos and descendants is also on CNN talking about UFOs and whatever. But my main question there is true or false. Does the one that they released not just look like a TIE fighter? It looks just like a TIE fighter. Come on.
Well, you know what people don't know is that those same thermal cameras, like when you see a jet fighter on it, it looks exactly like a jet fighter. It looks like a black and white photo from your phone on a tarmac of a jet plane. It's just black and white. They don't look like blurry globs with weird auras and gimbaling around. And it's like, so people kind of go, oh, we don't know what that is. Everything's weird on those. No, they're not. Like, they're super highly detailed from radar systems that, like, the Spy 1 radar is the most advanced radar system on Earth. And it's deployed in carrier battle groups. And it does a three-dimensional airspace awareness. So you have, like, on the big Nimitz case that we brought out, you have the carrier and you have the USS Princeton and these other ones, and they're all using the Spy 1 radar to get, you know, optical images and tracking data in a three-dimensional. I mean, they're watching these things go for 80,000 feet down to zero in 1.7 seconds. And, you know, they can see so clearly. So when you see a jet on a thermal camera, it looks identical to a high-resolution, perfect picture of a fighter jet in the air, except it's just black and white. You know, so it's hard for people because they want to come up, their brain fills in the gaps. Like, this could be anything. It looks like a weird dot. Yeah, but you don't understand. Like, if you take your iPhone and take a picture of a flower right here in full sunlight and it comes out blurry, you're going to think something's wrong with your phone. Right. You know, but it's not. Well, it would be, I guess. But for them, they're like, when it happens like that, it's because there's something wrong with that thing. It's not normal. It's doing something wrong. The blurry edges are because of the propulsion. The gimbling is because of the absence of inertia and gravity inside there. The instantaneous travel is because it's not using any kind of technology we're familiar with. You know, so there's all these things, and then it's captured on multiple systems and eyewitnesses that are trained observers. Like, a pilot has $2.5 million is spent on a pilot before he ever leaves the tarmac. They have to learn every single plane, the engines, the wings, everything. They have to learn how planes and jets move in three-dimensional space. So if they're flying and something's moving at diagonal, they got to know how fast it's going and this and that. These guys are trained observers. So, you know, you have the guys in the air engaging it. You have the Spy 1 radar. You have people in the battle group that can see it. You know, so there's all these things. But it's easy for people to kind of, like, it's hard for people to digest this, is what I'm saying, you know, and I get it. I have compassion for that.
Do you have people come up to you all the time going, can I please tell you the time I saw a UFO? Because I saw a UFO. And do you have people telling you about their UFO stories?
Yes, but I more have people kind of come up to me and go, oh my God, I can talk to you for hours and I want to do it right now. You know, I need to know everything. Most people want to know what are the things that I can't talk about, and I try to give them hints. And every once in a while, I'll grab somebody off the street and go, "Hey, I'm going to tell you something." You know, I'll throw something in their ear, and they freak out and they kind of freeze up. You know, but
they go, "Who are you? Get away!"
Yeah, but this is what's cool about Angels and Airwaves is Angels and Airwaves is an arm of To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, right? So the whole goal here, and it started with Angels and Airwaves, where we were an art project and we wanted to communicate some of these larger themes that really make you think a little bit more about yourself and the world you're in. And one of those was about UFOs, and that got me in some trouble that I don't really talk about much, and then or can't really, but eventually you have all these guys that come around me, and then To the Stars Academy is what was created to handle the grand discussion. But it started with Angels wanting to communicate these things on film, books, music, live shows, and all that stuff. So the goal here is, as we go forward and as the band grows, you're going to see the science, the engineering, the animations, the movies and TV series, and all the media stuff that we've done start to come to life. You know, we've done a feature film. We've done, we have an unscripted series on History Channel. We did animations that won Toronto Film Festival on an Old Angels record. And we just had a lot more stuff coming. So it all kind of started with the music, and hopefully over the next couple of years, people start to see what the grand vision was 13 years ago when I said, I'm going to do all these things, and people kind of go, you're fucking high. And I go, I know I sound it, I know. But I think it's all starting to happen now.
So before we get back to what did you want to be when you grow up type questions, speaking of Angels, can you tell everybody a little bit about the new song, the All That's Left Is Love?
Yeah, you know, I'm exposed to a lot of like kind of really cool fringe science, a lot of theoretical stuff, a lot of stuff on consciousness. And for example, the founder of To the Stars Academy, Dr. Hal Puthoff, created the psychic spy program for the CIA. And it's a consciousness thing, and they would find nuclear missiles or kidnapped, you know, soldiers or whatever. They meditate in a basement somewhere, they get information, and it's psychic warfare kind of, but not warfare, but intelligence gathering. And so I have a really big optic into that, but I also have been exposed to some other things that are really cool. A part of the UFO program at the Pentagon, they studied this kid in China that can move objects with his mind, you know. And I tell people a lot about this, where they had a glass mason jar and they could put a piece of paper in it, screw the lid on, and with the mind, this 10-year-old kid moved the paper through the lid 6 feet away. And they found out that everyone can do this, but only 10% of the people really mastered it and pulled it off. But everyone has the same ability within their brains. Your mind can control matter. Your consciousness is the root of all experience, all matter. But it has kind of all information, past, present, and future. It's all in the ether, you know, but you got to meditate to access it. Some people call it pray. Some people might call it, you know, rain dancing with the Native Americans. But, you know, consciousness and group consciousness matters. So when I was looking at all the fear and all the anxiety that was happening with the coronavirus, I just felt artists' big job right now was to put out something to change that pattern. And so I wanted to put something out that was really positive and uplifting, and to do my part to stop that cycle of fear. Because the other thing is what they noticed, and this also happens to like people that have paranormal experiences. They did a big study at UCLA where they learned that people that were having poltergeist experiences, they were way worse for the people that got more scared. The people that had more fear, more anxiety, the vase was flying off the wall and hitting them or something, you know. Physical, big, creepy shit was happening. And all they could say was it has something to do with consciousness. Well, everything rolls back to whatever you really believe and feel will affect kind of everything around you. So I think that, you know, we have a role to try to make people feel good, because it really matters in a physics kind of way. And, you know, it's IKEA did that experiment where they had like a plant and all the kids yelled negative slurs at a plant in one of their stores. Yeah. And it died in 90 days, but the other plant was healthy. That's just intention. Well, it's consciousness controlling matter. It's the same thing, you know. The way you have the vibration you carry, what you think, what you believe, what you do, what you say affects. That's why they play everything around you. That's why they play music to plants. But if you cuss at a plant until you tell it you hate it all day long, it will die, you know? So that's what we're going to learn as a civilization as we go forward, and something I'm super passionate about.
Somebody asked earlier, and I wanted to throw it out at you. You know, you and I think I've interviewed you about 483,604 times throughout my life, I think.
And I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. But you know, we've run the gamut on lots of stuff in the millions of times that we've talked. But this is a question that somebody brought up earlier, and I said, you know what? I can't believe I've never asked him this. If Blink go into the Hall of Fame, is that something that you would be a part of?
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, yeah, I mean, I still own the band with the guys, and I still have a huge stake in it, and I still plan on going back at some point in the future here. I talk to them all the time. We've been talking about it recently, you know, but we haven't made a plan for it yet. Everyone's really busy. I would imagine, you know, I mean, it's really kind of, that band is, you know, it's really about what we did, and the mark that it made. But they're doing great stuff now too, you know, so maybe it's a celebration of all of it. I don't know. I mean, it's just a big honor to have any kind of awareness about the art that you create, you know.
Well, you know,
Politics outside it. I mean, take the politics out. Anybody that wants to celebrate something I had a small part in or a big part or whatever, I'm honored that anyone cares, you know.
well, it's funny that you put it that way, where you said something about they're making great stuff now. Were you a Trio fan years back?
Oh yeah.
I
Skiba's a
mean,
nice guy. I always like Matt. I'm a huge Alkaline Trio fan.
couldn't agree more. They're one of my top probably 30 bands of all time. And so when I heard that you were going to be replaced, I was like, oh, I hope it's not a schmo. Hey, it's Skiba. That's totally
Yeah.
fine with me.
Yeah, it's hard for me, you know, it's hard because as much as I love Blink, it's like, you know, I mean, look at all the things I do, you know, and look at all the things I'm into. I'm being me. And that's
Right.
hard for some people to deal with. I have desires to do a lot, you know, a lot musically and a lot artistically. And all of it points back to improving the world that we're in. And it just doesn't map up that easily with being in Blink, you know, right now, because that the best thing about that band is when the three of us compete over the direction it should take, you know.
Oh, okay.
And so, you know, whatever my goals are as an artist or what I want to do to enlighten, you know, people or help people in their lives and whatever, it doesn't, I can't do it there, or else it would be all me. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I don't think it's fair to them. I don't think it's fair for the institution of the band. It could have some of it, you know, but I think what you see with Angels and Airwaves and my company, it's all tied together, you know. I'm out trying to do new things, inventive things, and really promote positive change through self-awareness, expanding your consciousness. And the reason I do the UFO thing is that that's the one subject that can do all that can change the world, unite the world, revolutionize people's lives with the technology, change the way you feel in your belief systems. It's like everything. It's like bleach, just kills everything. So that this is kind of like the human bleach. And it's not all good. There's some scary, unnerving stuff with the UFO thing, but there's also some really great stuff. There's some really great stories of what we've accomplished. So, you know, my goal is getting this stuff out, and it's a process.
Okay, so the last time that we saw you was 4.5, 5 months ago, and that was obviously pre-COVID-19. What is the plan for Angels going back out? Do you know anything that we don't know? Do you know that your booking
I know a
agents
lot.
are saying one thing, you know?
Yeah, we do not know anything about the concert industry. We have ideas of what we might want to bring out this year and how we're going to do it to give people access to our art. And we're working on that. But as far as kind of our plan, I've been saying this in some of the interviews, and I really mean it. And I mean it for a few different reasons. As far as, I think this is, if it's not the best record I've ever done in my life, it's up there in the top couple. And the reason is I know how hard I challenge myself. And I know when I kind of just go, that's a great song, let it go. Or I go, that's a great song, but fuck, it could be better. It could be better, you know? And I'm in that zone where everything could be better. And I've been working on this for a year, and the diversity and the musicianship and how it's clever, you know, and it's still punk roots. And so I'm so excited about it that my focus is so driven on letting the stuff start to come out in the fall and getting the band back on the road right after. We got to see how everything unravels with this Corona thing. But Angels and Airwaves is in the best shape it's ever been as a band ever, writing the best stuff it's ever written. So I'm really excited to get it out there. Who knows if people like it? Who knows how far it'll go or whatever? But I just know that for me as an artist, what I'm trying to achieve, I'm going, wow, this is like a pinnacle moment in my career. And I really hope people see it the same way. But if not, I'm like crazy proud of it.
Okay, so, but just to go back one more time, you are thinking fall?
Yeah, for us, not for a tour. I think you're going to see us starting to release the first single and the videos and all the rolling out around fall. But I do think that, you know, like performances and live performances, all pay-per-view type stuff, all that is being discussed,
okay.
you know. So I think that there's going to be some cool things that we pull off. But this is like a tidal shift in how bands do things for this year. So it just takes a quick minute to figure out how it can all work. But everyone's really excited to make it happen, including the label, where they're investing money to make these things kind of happen for people.
I think every person from your label is on this call, by the way. I keep seeing all their names scroll by.
Well,
Yeah,
they're like actually watching like fucking Succession or something in the back room, but they plug on to make it seem like they're working.
True.
Yeah.
Somebody just asked, what is your favorite brand of frozen waffles?
Eggos. It's not even a fucking choice. It's buttermilk style Eggos, not the home style. And anyone that puts an Eggo in there, layers it with like melted butter and some thick 100% pure maple syrup, it's fucking heavenly. It's so good. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, sir.
I do. Listen, I had an entire conversation with Wayne Coyne from the Flaming Lips one time about how runoff syrup is better than any other. That if you pour the syrup on the pancakes and then it runs off to the bacon, it's better than pouring the syrup directly on the bacon. The guy talked for like 15 minutes about that alone. So
that's really interesting. It's true. I mean, it's like when you make a carne asada burrito in San Diego and you get to the bottom, it's like all the juices come down and you have the best bites ever. Or cereal. You get to the bottom of a Lucky Charms bowl of cereal and it's all sugary and perfect. Ice cream. When you get to the bottom of an ice cream cone and it's kind of melted down to that little part of the cone.
That's my kid's favorite part. All right, somebody asked, what is the worst part about having to stay home?
No, the kids going absolutely apeshit because they're bored. I mean, absolutely. Yeah, that's the biggest issue. But I'm really lucky. I mean, look, what am I complaining about here? Like, I have this giant view. Right.
Yeah,
that's the ocean. You can't see it. It's kind of hazy, but the ocean is like massive over there. And then I have all this rural horse property stuff over there. So you got a view too? Look at you, cutie.
Yeah, but see, my view is just of a bunch of trees and a parking lot. You have, look, there's ORU, there's Oral Roberts University over there. Okay. And then that's about it. But you have the ocean. So yours is
I do. Yeah, I'm lucky. And this deck right here has saved my life more times than one. So I'm fortunate that we barbecue, listen to music. Kids are skateboarding and stuff out front. We went surfing yesterday. We're going to probably go surfing today, maybe. I'm lucky.
It's funny. I saw that thing that Patton Oswalt put out the other day that was like, everybody's complaining that nothing's open. But, Anne Frank hid from the Nazis for 2 years without Netflix, without video games, without DoorDash, without whatever. And it really makes you go, oh, all right, never mind.
Well, no one's disputing the fact that she's a fucking superhero. This is like the women that can lift the car off their hurt baby.
Right.
I don't judge you in the same category as us because someone like Anne Frank is like, I don't know anybody that could have been as enduring and as powerful as that woman. It's like you're taking the number one thing on earth. I'm just a lonely civilian peasant over here.
Just a dude sitting in.
I'm just a dude.
On a balcony,
I want to go to the fucking movies and I want to go get some good Italian food every once in a while. That's it. But I am a homebody, so it's not the worst thing for me. But gosh, I do want to say there's so many people hurting right now, and all these celebrities going on in their big houses and my deck and the view and stuff. It sucks because there's a lot of people like in an apartment or can't even make rent because they lost their jobs and stuff. So I gotta say, like, I know it's so bad. It's like the Great Depression with unemployment and all that stuff. So I by no means want to make light of it and joke. I just got to throw it out there because there's a lot of musicians and actors and stuff. They're like, oh, like, let's have fun. We're dancing and everything sucks. No, my life's not bad. Some people have it really bad, and I feel for them.
Well, you know, you mentioned earlier about how your kids are bored and going crazy. And I saw this thing online the other day that really hit home with me that said, you know, while we're taking time to applaud all these people that are doing great work, whether they're delivery drivers or, you know, nurses or whoever, a lot of the time we forget that kids are being affected by this so totally different than they normally would, because they don't get to see their friends. They don't get to
It's a big
see
deal.
their friends at school. They don't get to hug on their friends. They don't get to go outside. They don't get to do all this stuff. And it's hard to explain as a parent to a kid and go, oh, we have to stay here.
Yeah.
Well, the government says, or whatever. And it's like, that's difficult.
Well, it's also difficult because people don't realize that you and me, our world's really big, right? We're thinking about work. We're thinking about marriages and families. We're thinking about vacations. We're thinking about the news, what's happening in Africa or the vaccine. We're reading content. We're thinking of UFOs and space, all this shit. But a kid's world is literally today, and they're like 10 friends.
Right.
So it's really easy to completely shut their world down and fuck it all up. You know, like if someone came to us and took away the movie theaters, we're like, you know, if someone takes away where you're going to work, I got a big world in my head. But a kid's world, you take away their friends, you just took out 80% of their entire existence, you know? Yeah. So that's something to be compassionate about with kiddos, especially my daughter's in her senior year. And it's like she's missing prom, you know, she's missing all of her college tours that she was hoping to take. So that's a big deal, because those are like big milestones in their life, and they all got switched around at the bottom of the ninth inning, and they're like, what? You know, so I get it.
All right, we have two more questions. The first one, who was your favorite wrestler as a kid?
Oh, my brother. He was a wrestler.
Really?
He was a real wrestler at high school, and he would.
Oh, a real wrestler.
Yeah, and he would bend me in half and break every fucking. I would come in from the door, and he's all, check this out. He'd throw me on the ground and spread my legs so far, you know. But actually, he wasn't my favorite. He was the worst, because he was like torturing me. But I guess when I was looking at like WWE type stuff, I mean, obviously Hulk Hogan was kind of the bee's knees. He was like, sure. He was the one we all knew, but I didn't really follow that stuff, but I did know him and thought that was like, that's cool. He's like strong. It's real, right? Is it real? I don't know. Seems real. They're bleeding.
It's real enough.
Real enough. Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, this is my favorite question. What was the first rich thing you bought yourself?
Oh, that's easy. A BMW. Like when I remember the first like expensive thing I bought. There's two answers. I mean, the BMW car sedan was like the first kind of rich thing. I remember going, what am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I buying this? Holy shit! Why am I buying this? All blacked out. Fuck, can I even afford this? Did I just spend all my money? And I drove off the lot, and I was like, this is fucking awesome! And I'm like, I was so stoked. But honestly, the first thing I bought when I had money was we signed to MCA Records, which is Universal Music Group, and I took my very first check and bought a $1,500 desktop computer only to research UFOs. And I had binders. Remember, like Trump talked about binders, or someone talked about binders of women? That was Romney. You know, I had binders of UFO stuff on a shelf, you know, and I was trying to understand it all and find patterns, and I was so into it. And that was literally the very first expensive thing I ever bought in my life. But the first kind of rich prick thing was I bought this BMW sedan, made me feel important, and I was shitting bricks when I signed it. But then I rolled off the lot and all the orange lights inside and stuff. I was like, I'm so important. I just drive a truck, you know. Now I'm just like Ford truck.
There you go. All right, listen, this has been, I think, of the 483,602 times that we've talked, I think this has been my favorite. So thank you.
Good. Hey, and again, so sorry about yesterday. I like to blame it on someone else, but it's just, dude. Do you have kiddos? Are you homeschooling kids and stuff? So
yep, I got a kid. She is at home right now, and but I mean, she has a phone, and it sucks because when I was growing up, or when I first had her, I was like, no kid of mine's gonna sit on an iPad all day, and now it's like, wait till you have one. The iPad.
You want another? Yeah. Or it's almost like, do you want another iPad? Just be quiet, stay quiet, you know. But I over here, I have an 8-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 13-year-old, and
Right.
they're all like, it's like they're all at different things, freaking out about different things and pissed off about different things, you know. So when you get thrown into like keeping that homeostasis in the household when all that shit
Sure.
happens, it's all your accountabilities and responsibilities get changed around, and you're just not operating as normal. So I appreciate you being cool about it, and to
No,
all
no
those people
sweat.
listening. Yeah.
Okay, wait. I do have one more question because when you just mentioned kids, do your kids, what do they think about their dad being Tom? Because, we were talking about Gavin Rossdale earlier, and his kid, and one of his kids, and my kid is the same age. And so every time that we talk, we end up ending like talking about that. And I remember him saying one time that his kids didn't think that it was cool, like at all. They
Yeah.
didn't never look at it as, holy crap, my dad is going to play in front of 50,000 people or whatever. Like, what are your kids? Because you got old enough now to where they know. It's not like, oh, dad
Yeah.
has to be gone for a little while. What do they think?
It's interesting. I think most kids are the same with their parents. Like, their parents aren't anything special, but I think they actually do know it, because when they want something, they're going to try and figure out how you can drop your name and pull it off. However, you can fucking pull it off. But I also think that my kids trip on me a little bit, because I'm doing feature films and television series, but I also play in rock bands, but then I'm also working with people from the CIA or whatever. So they're kind of going, wow, our dad's pretty interesting,
Yeah.
but they definitely don't geek out over me at all. I think they think I'm like a cartoon character.
It's funny because my kid the other day, we were driving and there was a billboard and it was for some show, and she's like, oh, it was like Tame Impala or whatever, and she's like, hey, Tame Impala are coming. So we got tickets, I assume. I was
Yeah,
like, yeah,
it's easy
maybe.
for
And she's
you.
like, and they come with passes, I assume. I was
Yeah,
like,
she's like, I'm not going to be in a seat out there
right,
with the stinky people. Yeah.
give me a
Oh,
break.
Coachella every year, like clockwork. I get a text from my daughter. It's like, I want to go. Post Malone or somebody's there, and I'm like,
Right,
okay, do you have $500? She's like, no, but don't you know somebody? Everybody. I'm like, well, I don't know. I haven't really toured for a handful of years. Do I know a road crew guy somewhere?
right.
I don't know. But they just assume. It's funny. I mean, what can you do?
Well, it's funny. We were talking about Stefan from Descendants earlier. One of the last times that I saw him right before this is he and his kids were in line to meet Billie Eilish, and I was there bringing my daughter to meet Billie Eilish, and I look over and it was like, here we are, just a
Yeah,
couple of dads. And he's
yeah.
like, here we are.
I'll never forget when Lenny Kravitz brought his daughter. I think it was Zoe. She's like an actress now or something. She was really young. Came to an early Blink show.
Yeah,
And I came backstage, and he's sitting there in his like afro thing and like all the crazy gear, and we're back there with like sideways hats and nose rings. And I remember looking at him and go, hey, I just want to apologize to you beforehand for what's going to happen on that stage.
right.
We say a lot of stupid shit, and I think a lot of people. It was like our first arena tour where all the little girls were coming out because we were on MTV. But they didn't know that we're opening the show with a giant sign that said "fuck on fire" or something, whatever
Right.
we did, it's funny, like, he's probably sitting there kind of going, "This is not music. What the fuck am I doing here?" She's like, you grew up on Hendrix and Prince. What the fuck are you into these guys for? These little white boys that are like, can't even play their instruments. Well, the drummer can. The drummer's actually pretty good.
Drummer's good. The other two.
The other two guys are not so much. Yeah.
Hey, listen, thank you for taking the time out today. And I'm sure that we'll see you again real soon. But if you need Coachella tickets anytime for your kid, give
You
me
are
a
the
ring
man.
ding.
Oh, you're awesome. Well, thank you
I'll
so
hook you up.
much. Let's talk soon.
All right. It was great seeing you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. See ya.